Competing in a super competitive market. This is how you do it. So if you're new to this, I document myself every day building my business, and the business model is LBOs. We're buying businesses using leverage, and we're consolidating a fragmented industry in the healthcare space. And today's topic about competing in a competitive market is very interesting. And also, if you're new to this is basically just completely raw talk. This is raw. So like no editing, no notes, just observations that I have. Okay, so where do I start? So when I talk about competitive markets, I'm talking about monopolies. I'm talking about big pharma. I'm talking about uh, the aerospace and defense industry. I'm talking about telecommunications, many large industries, right? And these are dominators, man. Like, how do you compete with someone so large? They have a monopoly, basically. Even though monopolies are illegal, right? They still exist in our society. How do you compete with someone in the market that is so much bigger and so ahead of you, right? But at the end of the day, problems are exactly how you look at it, right? So here's what I think, and this is what I propose, right? And this is only based off observations and facts of what I have seen and what I've read about through books, etc. So I've been hearing a lot about Mark Cuban's new company. It's called Cost Plus Drugs, right? And he's basically attacking big pharma, and he's just showing he's given the market transparency. That's his selling point. That's what he brings to the market. He's basically creating an online pharmacy that creates a transparent atmosphere, and he shows how much he gets the pills and the drugs from the manufacturers for. So he'll show his cost plus 15% markup, and then that's what he'll sell it to you for. And I was looking at their website, and I heard him talking about it in multiple podcasts, accidentally actually. And it really opened my eyes, and I've seen it over and over and over. And I'll mention some examples here. But I looked at their website, and some of these drugs, these pills, they'll be marked at like $5,000, right, for a pill, and it's paid for by your insurance, right? And he'll mark that same one at like $200-300, 5,000 to like 200-300. That's like insane, right? Now I haven't delved too deep into that rabbit hole, but it seems to me that the healthcare space has a larger issue at hand. Like, it's not only just the drugs issue, it's also like health insurance, and it's medical devices, etc. Like, a lot of things are just so expensive for no reason. And since it's so expensive, the only way you could pay for it is through your insurance. Therefore, the insurance has a monopoly on like the whole thing, like within its grip, right? Health insurance is so expensive. Therefore, the second or third most expensive line item in your business, like, since we're doing acquisitions and we're looking at different businesses to acquire, oftentimes, and I've seen this over and over and over, health insurance is the second most expensive line item in the whole, like, balance sheet, the income statements, just the most expensive cost for the business. Second most expensive, right? Number one is payroll. Number two is health insurance. And in reality, number one, the most expensive one, is actually taxes. So you got taxes, payroll, health insurance. So like these are some big problems. Like, why is health insurance so expensive, man? Now imagine if you're doing $30 of health insurance per employee for thousands of employees. Like, you're spending millions of dollars a month on health insurance. That's wild, man. That's so wild. Basically, what I'm saying is, if you're going to attack a very competitive market, there's plenty of ways to go about it. But the basis of it all, and the biggest skill that you will need, is creativity and the ability to differentiate, right? You could differentiate if you're able to have the creativity. And I see this all the time. So recently I read a book. I read multiple books, but I've seen this multiple times. So I'm just trying to explain each one. So I also read about this in books, but the example I'm going to say next is actually Elon Musk. So Elon Musk, if you think about all his companies that he has today, they all attack some of the biggest issues in the world today. They really solve some big problems. And ultimately, like, that's how you make real wealth, is like you solve a big problem. Like, okay, so the example for a competitive marketplace is his company. I forget what it's called, but it's like internet from satellites. I forget what that company specifically is called, but he's attacking the telecommunications space. AT&T, T-Mobile, and Graham Bell's, conglomerate like AT&T, Verizon. They have a monopoly in that space. Like it's consolidated by big players. So if you're a small player, how do you enter that market? You have to differentiate. You have to bring something. You have to be helpful. You have to give the customer something that actually helps him. Because at some point of becoming such a big conglomerate of a company, you're not obligated to care anymore about the customer. You don't have to care, so they're not gonna care. They're not incentivized. It all breaks down to incentive at the end of the day. So basically, me as a consumer, right? I have a phone, you have a phone. Everyone has internet, right? And I used to work in AT&T actually, which is the funny part, but I used to run into, because I'm in Texas, right? I'd run into people that live in the middle of nowhere and they want internet, but like you have to check if internet's available in that area. But these satellites reach in the middle of nowhere. They reach like anywhere in the world. Like it's such a smart business model, and it disrupts the industry. And basically, you're guaranteed to have an exit as an owner. You are guaranteed to have a big fat check at the end of the road when you're competing in a big dominated industry, because these big players don't want to compete. They don't want to change. They're comfortable. They're gonna buy you out. Cost Plus Drugs, I did some research on them. They do $1 billion a year in revenue. I don't know how much of that is profit, but Big Pharma just wants to buy them out. I guarantee you, like, that's an easy exit. And from the books that I read about John D. Rockefeller. I read a book about him. And okay, so at some point in his career, not only him, it was John D. Rockefeller, it was Andrew Carnegie, and I think it was a Vanderbilt. Like, there was 3 of the richest people in the world at the time. They were the dominators in America at the time. Richest, wealthiest people, right? And Rockefeller was in oil, and Carnegie was in the steel industry. So basically, the Americans didn't like the rich, as they don't today. Everyone's gonna hate on the rich people. But the problem was they were they were facing a problem of someone running for presidency that didn't like them. And if he actually became president at the time, he would have like ruined their businesses with regulations and things of that nature. So they had to come together, the 3 richest people in America, or in the world at that time. They had to come together and collectively come with a solution to not get this guy to run for president and have their own appointed leader, right? And they basically succeeded, and they had their own guy run as president, and they had to work together, right? So they were all like one big like team. The interesting part was that as soon as like they no longer needed each other and they didn't need to work together, Rockefeller looked at Carnegie's situation, because Carnegie was in the steel industry. Like, he built like train tracks and stuff, right? So Carnegie went ahead and created a company that competed with Carnegie's monopoly in the steel industry. And the interesting part was that Rockefeller literally created this company just to attack Carnegie's company, like literally like steal customers from Carnegie. So Carnegie eventually was forced to buy Rockefeller's company, and he made a contract with Rockefeller to not compete in the steel industry anymore. Like, you're not allowed to enter this industry. So it's just an easy fat check for Rockefeller. Not only that, Steve Jobs did the same thing with Next. He got kicked out of Apple, and he created a company called Next that was literally built so that Apple can buy them out. Because Apple's seeing what's going on, they don't want to compete. They're very large, monopoly, whatever. They buy them out. Not only that, I've seen it again and again and again. Like, even with small things, like if you're gonna make content, the easiest thing to get views, right? If you're gonna get views on TikTok or YouTube, whatever, you find a current trend, and all you do is you literally copy what everyone's doing, but you add your own twist to it. You probably heard that like a gazillion times. You differentiate yourself. You add curiosity, and basically where there's rain falling, you just stand in the rain, you'll get wet, but you have to be able to position yourself to where you're there, right? You have to be a player. You can't just copy people and expect someone to do the same thing. This one has more reviews, and they'll go with you for no reason. Like, you have to be reasonable. You have to think like a human that's actually buying something. Even if you're gonna post something on Amazon or on TikTok Shop or Shopify, whatever, like you want to sell something online, even though you might compete in a certain space that has big players with 10,000 reviews or whatever, but you see that keyword has hundreds of thousands of searches per month. Like, there's a lot of rain, a lot of money coming in that area, that keyword. You want to compete in that space. The best thing is to see the reviews. You got to differentiate. Like, you got to be creative with it. Like me, like just thinking off the top of my head, you look at the reviews, you look at the 1 stars, the 3, the 4 stars, you see what was wrong with it, and you just add it onto your product, and you differentiate yourself that way. And now you're able to compete in a competitive marketplace. You're bringing something that kind of already exists, but you're adding something to it. And as a result, you're adding the value, you're fixing a problem, you get paid. So it all depends on how you look at it. So for me and what I'm doing, I'm trying to consolidate a fragmented industry so there's not many big players. But the funny part is, even if you compete in an area that has a lot of competition, I'm not saying it's easy. It's still going to be hard, but you can still do it. In fact, it's all about the lens and how you look at it. It's just, how do you look at the glass of water? Is it half empty or half full? How do you look at the rain and the storm? Do you look at the rainbow, or do you look at, the clouds? You know what I mean? Kind of like that. But anyways, that's how you compete in a competitive marketplace. And the cost plus drugs model is so interesting to me because it could be used in so many different facets. It could be used in, the most default way to differentiate yourself is just to provide a lower price. And honestly, that's not the best way to create the value. It's not. That's kind of like what the cost plus drugs model is, but that's not the selling point. It's not the fact that this one's more expensive and this one's cheaper. It's the fact that this one is more scammy. I don't have the transparency and the knowledge of what's going on here and why this is priced so high. And this one is priced lower, but it gives me the transparency. That's the difference. It's like the selling point is the transparency, not the price. I feel like I worked in the car industry. I feel like, and I know actually, like that model could be perfect in the car industry. Like, okay, this is what we get it from the manufacturers for. This is how much we're selling it to you for. It doesn't have to be so complicated. Like I feel like the car industry needs like renovation. It needs to adapt to new times. Like, it's pretty much stuck in old times, man. A lot of industries are like that. And not only that, the whole problem of like health insurance needs to be fixed, man. It has to be fixed. Like, if I'm buying a company, why is health insurance the second most expensive line item of every single business I looked at? Like, why is it so expensive? It doesn't make any sense to me, actually. Like, I read about this with the cost plus drugs models. Mark Q, I have to read up on this, but he was talking about how the health insurance side of like business is way overpriced. But most people don't know much about it, and a lot of CEOs get ripped off on it, which is honestly, I think that makes sense. It just, I don't get why it's so high. I don't get why health care has to be so expensive. I don't understand why taxes has to be so high. You know, like there's a lot of big problems in the world. Like providing a real solution is amazing. Like that's what the world needs. Like you shouldn't look at the world from a lens of like, what's my passion and what do I like to do and what can they do for me? No, you got to look at the world from a realistic standpoint. Like, okay, this is where we're at. And how can I fix this and make it better? I really like what Steve Jobs said one time. He said, once you discover that the world is made up and created by people no smarter than you, then your perspective changes and you realize that you could do it as well. You could do anything. But it's made by people no smarter than you. It's a very interesting thought to have. Like, okay, like some people might think like, yeah, I have like an 80 IQ. Some people have 160 or whatever, right? But no one's gonna have 10,000 times higher of an IQ than you. You know what I mean? So why is it that they have 10,000 times more success than you? Like, see, okay, the math isn't adding up there, right? Okay, maybe the IQ, okay, but the success side doesn't make sense. Like, why is that like not proportional to this, right? It's just an excuse at the end of the day. So if you're watching at this point, I want to talk about this channel and what's going on with LBOs and buying businesses. So I haven't, okay, where am I trying to go with this? I haven't been recording the last couple of days, admittedly. And why did I not record? So I'll have a better explanation soon enough, because there's some stuff I don't want to talk about. But yeah, man, I can't fully say. But I'm back on it, man. We're doing this, we're committed. And honestly, like yesterday, the day before when I went to sleep and I didn't have to worry about making a video, that felt so good. It just felt good to like just sleep and not have to worry. Like I always do these right before I sleep. But okay, here's some updates with what I have going on. So one, I sent out a bunch of letters, right? You guys know about that if you've been watching. And I finally had someone call me from the letters. Oh yeah, and I remember where I was going with this. So I had somebody call me from the letters and we had a great conversation and it sounds like a solid business and I'm doing follow-up with that guy. And I had a friend of mine, I had multiple people actually offer me, they're willing to invest money into a deal. If we have a deal on the table, they're willing to offer money for a deal. Now, we are in a super fragmented space, but I did notice on LinkedIn, and it's not that hard. I don't know how I didn't run into this before, but a lot of the QLA guys, I ran into them on LinkedIn. A lot of them. And almost all of them are in the home health space, which is kind of crazy. They're all in the home health space. I saw at least like 20 to 30. I found Andreas's LinkedIn. If you don't know Andreas, he's like a very famous, notoriously known QLA mentee. He's in Germany. He's also in the home health space. I actually didn't know he was in home health. I think I've heard that before, but I wasn't sure. I saw that. And not only that, I've been doing cold calls, right? And a lot of the I've had at least 3 different calls in the past week with owners, and they all tell me like they get offers from people looking to buy their business. They get offers all the time. And I ask how often, right? Each owner kind of gives me a different response. Like one owner this week said, I get an offer maybe like once a week. And the guy just bought the business. Like he's telling me, yeah, me and my wife is a nurse practitioner, so it made sense. Like I'm a banker, she's a nurse practitioner, so we wanted to just start this business together. So we bought a company. That's what he was saying. He's like, we get offers like once a week, whether it's mail or email. And another lady says she gets offers all the time. I think she said maybe like twice a month, something like that, of like mail. Like not that many people call, but a lot of people mail and email. And one lady really stood out to me. She had a business doing about 500,000 in revenue, 100,000 in profit. I think I mentioned her one time before, but what I didn't mention is that she told me, so she's very big on creating great service for her customers. She was telling me all about different employees and what type of employees she thinks is good, which ones she's had bad experiences with, and the kind of patterns she's noticed over time. And what she told me was during COVID, like during 2020, she used to get calls all the time of like people trying to buy her business. And she was like, yeah, like there's all these kids that graduated from college looking to buy and this and that. And she got involved with one of them, and I think something happened. Like I think she wanted like too high of a multiple, or I don't remember the details, honestly. I don't remember that detail. But what I do remember is she's saying that she gets offers all the time. And not only that, but it's not only that, but like when I'm at work, like today, I had 2 random numbers call me. They were both from my area code, like within DFW. And I couldn't pick up because I was at work, right? I have a job, in case you don't know. So I'm just sitting there and I'm like, man, like, honestly, the biggest bottleneck for my business has to be the fact that I'm working a job. You know what I mean? And if I wasn't working a job, I would be so much further along. I really believe that. So it's like I kind of need to like buy my time, or I need to extend my time limit or my timeline on how soon I would like this to succeed. So there was a lot of that going on, right? And it's not necessarily doubt, but that's the thing about like doing these videos, man. Like you cannot share doubts. Oh yeah, another book I was reading was Ray Kroc. If you don't know who this guy is, he is like the owner, one of the founders of McDonald's, right? I read his book and I even saw his movie. It's called The Founder. I loved that movie, man. In fact, I might even want to watch it again. Like it's like a case study almost. It's this guy who was a salesman. He used to sell like cups and he used to sell like ice cream machines. He was an entrepreneur all the way in his 50s. And okay, I saw the differentiator factor, man. So like the McDonald's brothers had their own company and they had this system that made them have the ability to like create food very fast. They basically revolutionized the food industry and they created fast food, which didn't exist back then. Ray Kroc, he made a deal with them to become their franchise representative. So he grew their business like crazy. And It's a crazy story, but what's my point? My point is, where was I trying to go with this? I don't know, man. Basically, what I'm. Oh yeah, so you can never share doubt. So Ray Kroc, he used to, go out and get denied so much. He would give someone a perfect pitch on why his ice cream machine was like the best thing in the world, and like his pitch was like so like spot on, but he'd get rejected. They close the door on him, whatever. Like it was old school sales. Like he would go like in person. I think he'd cold call. He'd go in person, right? I think this was like back in like the 40s or 50s, like right after the Great Depression, after World War II. And whenever people would ask him like, "Hey man, how's the business going?" He'd just be like, "It's going great. A lot of interest." Right after he got rejected like 100 times. Like you could never show doubt. As like a CEO, as like a founder, listen man, your energy is so contagious. What you say goes. Like you're very influential, especially within your company, right? So you can't give the idea that, oh, this is gonna fail, blah blah blah. Now, I am just sharing an observation. I think that there's so many industries that could be used for consolidation. There's so many industries that need disruption, that needs young people to come in there and like change the game. Like the education industry like needs like a change. It needs a big change. And honestly, the whole economy stems from there. Like if you look at real estate, if you're around a good school, your real estate value goes up. And people want to move to places that have good schools. And like everything stems from there. You get jobs in that area. You get this in that area. So like education's a big one. It needs revolution. Like it doesn't need courses and this and that. I saw Steve Jobs talk about a voucher system where like the government's already paying for public schools, right? So why doesn't it allocate a certain amount of money per family in the United States? Because they're already paying for each family anyways, right? So why don't you give the family the power to put the student in whichever school you pick, right? You have a certain budget, you could put them in whatever kind of private school, whatever, right? That way it incentivizes the schools to become the best, to attract the best customers. So that way they could get the most money. Money is the incentive for everything. Like I saw Warren Buffett, he said he has a very simple solution to fix the tax issue in the United States, which is, he said, in two years, I forget if it was 2 years or in one term, which is the same thing, but if the people in Congress and the government cannot fix or they can't find a solution for the tax issue that we have at hand currently, then they wouldn't be able to reelect. Something like that. Like you create the incentive and boom, like all of them are like, they need to fix it because they're incentivized. Otherwise they'll have to go. But there's so many great opportunities in the world today, man. There really is. And yeah, we're going to get after it. We're going to catch something, man. We're going to catch a fish. I fully believe that. But I need to be able to I need to buy myself, buy my time, be able to pursue what I need to pursue. Look, I've seen Dan Pena talk about this. You could do QLA when you have a job. You could do it if you're in school, right? You can. Like Josh Kim, I think he did that. I don't know how he set up his schedule exactly. I think I have an idea of how he did, but like that takes long. Like he started it when he was 17 and got his first acquisition when he was 21 or 22. And I've seen that over and over. It's kind of happening to me like in front of me, you know what I mean? But it kind of goes back to the QLA guy. Like I remember him telling me like, listen man, like how, like you need to work on your personal foundation and maybe saving up some money and okay, I don't want to think like that exactly, but getting your personal situation handled, maybe that's part of your personal foundation. You know what I mean? But this is what I know. If I know there's people like willing to invest into these deals, I know the idea I have is monumental and could really like create a lot of value in the world. I believe in it in many ways, right? I can't just say it in 2 seconds. But I know people believe in it. And people want to see the series go, keep going. Listen, man, we're not going to fail. We have to succeed.